What is going on, people of YouTube? My name has to be Kurtyoy, and welcome back to the long-awaited return of the Let's Talk Football podcast. The podcast where we talk about football in a podcast. Hence the reason it's called Let's Talk Football podcast. Pretty simple stuff. And today I'm joined with the Jamie Neville to my Jamie Carragher. Oh, hold on a minute. Gary Neville. The Gary Neville to my Jamie Carragher. That's what I meant to say. He's already introduced himself by needlessly laughing at my expense. It's Joe or GINGIEx.
You're right, guys. I'm back again on Kurt's channel because it's the only place you get content from me.
And sounding pretty dead as well. So if you hear Darth Vader, it's him. And someone dying in the background like that, it's him.
I'm going to mute my mic when I cough.
No Joes were harmed in the making of this podcast. But what are we going to be doing? Hopefully, just quickly, it might be a weekly thing, depending on if we're free. Might have other people on it, as well as us, or if not, just me and someone else if Joe is unable / dying, hopefully not dying at any point this season. But it'll hopefully be running throughout the whole season, as long as I've got time to record it throughout the week sometime. This is recorded on a Monday. I think I'm going to post it on a Wednesday, just so it's got enough time for people to watch it and listen to it before the start of the season. But today we're going to be talking about transfers, pretty much going through every club and discussing those transfers in a little bit of detail. Then talking about, I won't mention his name, but it arrives with Ogba and is money ruining football. Then we've got Premier League predictions, game week 1 fixtures, talking about what could happen there, any few shocks if need be, and also our FPL players to watch. But first of all, the season is almost here. Pre-season has happened, and there's a lot of players that have done well in pre-season, and a lot of players that maybe haven't done well, and also a lot of people that maybe don't count pre-season. Just your thoughts on pre-season before we get into transfers. Do you think results matter in pre-season?
No. Never have and never will do, because pre-season is a time for a manager to experiment with their team. You know, you try out new things, you try out new formations, you try out young players and things like that. You can't judge a team on their pre-season. That's just fact. Let's face it.
Would you say it's more like just gaining up match fitness for the start of the season and not really worrying about the results too much?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, because otherwise Barcelona wouldn't have let Liverpool beat them 4-0, would they? Because that's partly what we're looking at here, isn't it? The fact that you look at the likes of Liverpool, you know, Premier League mid-table outfit nowadays. God, the shots fired there. Okay, right, sort of top 7 sort of team, you know, beating the world's best team 4-0. I know it wasn't their full strength side, which is also part of the reason why pre-season does not matter whatsoever.
Yeah, I would like to mention that it was a 2/4 or 2/3 strength side because they had Messi and Suarez playing, but they didn't have Neymar. So
yeah, exactly.
Neymar's the best player because he linked them all together. But I wanted to get out because it's always something that people get worried about because, of course, something that will come up a lot of times in this episode is that Leicester's pre-season form maybe hasn't been too good against big teams. They've struggled. A lot of big teams have also struggled, Man City being one of them. So who knows what we're going to expect. West Ham, maybe. I wasn't going to mention that. Didn't know how you're going to react to that. But a lot of teams struggle, and it's just something I wanted to get out of the way first. But now we are on to the transfers, where we talk about transfers. We're going to start off in alphabetical order. Although it's kind of, harsh, but AFC Bournemouth I'm going to leave it till after Arsenal. But first of all, because it's easy, Arsenal this season they've signed Xhaka, they've signed Takuma Asano and Rob Holding. Good business so far or bad business?
Based on their rivals, they've basically might as well have not made a signing. I mean, you look at the players that other teams have signed, I mean, we'll get onto that later, but Granit Xhaka, or whatever his name is, no, that is right, isn't it? Granit Xhaka,
yeah.
Rob Holding, who I've never even heard of, and Takuma Asano, never even heard of.
Hakuna Matata.
I mean, come on. Surely Arsenal, you've got to wake up and smell the roses. The fact that if you want to win the league, signing a Swiss centre mid who isn't even that proven for 34 million is not the way.
Yeah, I'd mirror those thoughts. I think Arsenal, the signings they've made not that bad. I mean, I'm not really counting Takuma Asano because I know absolutely nothing about him. Seeing as I support Sheffield Wednesday and I've watched a lot of Championship football last season, Rob Holding is one for the future, and Granit Xhaka, again, quite young, so could be considered one for the future. But when it comes to world-class talent, I think they've signed no one.
Well, no, I mean, we say, yeah, Granit Xhaka, one for the future, but you've got to remember that 2 or 3 years ago now, Toni Kroos joined Real Madrid for 21 million.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, money has changed in football, but Toni Kroos is a much better player than Xhaka may ever be.
Yeah, I mirror those thoughts. I think it was... I don't know why. It wasn't even a panic buy. It came really early, but I don't even feel like they need players in that position. They've got, as far as defensive options, which maybe he could play in, you've got Coquelin, you've got El Neni. As far as attacking options, you've got Ramsey, who I'd play there ahead of anyone. You've got Jack Wilshere, God forbid if he actually gets fit for once. And now you've got Xhaka there. I feel like there's other areas they could have targeted, personally.
Yeah, well, so that's a definite defence for sure.
Yeah, I'll go
They
with
definitely needed more defenders.
I mean, considering I'm looking at the defence now, and I said, oh look, Mertesacker's injured, good place to get Gabriel now, and now I'm saying, oh look, Mertesacker and Gabriel are injured now, great place to get Rob Holding. I'd say no, because it looks as if Koscielny might not even be starting the first game of the season. So you've got all 3 of your centre-backs injured, or not playing for the start of the season, which means your centre-back options could be Rob Holding and Callum Chambers. Worrying.
Not exactly the most experienced line-up, to say the least.
But positives is that their attacking options have been doing well. People are saying Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain's putting in a good shift. Theo Walcott started playing well again. And as far as it's concerned, Sanchez is a good player to have. Ramsey had a good Euro 2016, as Ozil was always going to start off the season really well. But I just feel like it's defence you need, shoring up. Probably even another right back, because I don't even think Jenkinson or Debuchy is enough backup for Bellerin.
No, I'd agree with that. Debuchy isn't really good enough, and Jenkinson, we saw it was like last season. He's a bit inconsistent by the looks of it.
Yeah, so we move on from Arsenal to the next club, which is actually, I believe, yeah, it is Bournemouth, and they've been signing a lot of players. Hindman from Fulham, Ake from Chelsea, Musit from Le Havre. Then we've also got Ndoji from Millwall, Lewis Cook from Leeds, Jordan Ibe from Liverpool, and Brad Smith also from Liverpool. A lot of them for the future. Ake is a loan, but for me, unless they make some more transfers in different positions, I'm slightly worried for Bournemouth this season.
I'm not so much worried for Bournemouth as I am for other clubs. You've got to remember that last season they performed extremely well above expectations for some people. I knew they would stay up, but for some people, they all said Bournemouth would go down. Now, I think that personally, the fact that they've got the likes of Callum Wilson coming back, they've got Benik Afobe as well, 2 good strikers already. And then adding on to that, you've got Max Gradle returning as well for them. They've got a lot of key players they didn't have last year. Tyrone Mings is probably back as well. I'm not 100% sure on that. But a lot of key players they didn't have last year are returning to the side. And the fact that they signed Jordan Ibe as well, you think of that wing, the wings you've got there, Gradle and Ibe. Don't also forget the likes of Stanislas, who stepped in really well last season for them. But having Callum Wilson up top is going to be a massive thing for Bournemouth this year, and I'm not saying top half finish, but I reckon they could stay up. I reckon they'll stay up.
It'll be a graft. The 2 transfers, obviously. I mean, you've lost the likes of Zubar and Distan, although they're by far not first team players. They are experienced individuals. Distan spent a lot of time in the Premier League at Everton. You've got Zubar, who spent a lot of time in the Premier League at Wolves, I believe. And then to add to that, I believe Matt Ritchie is a massive loss. As much as they've got Ibe, they've got Gradle, Stanislas, I think Matt Ritchie was their best winger by far, and he's gone. And also Tommy Elphick at back is a huge loss. I mean, even though Aston Villa lost against the mighty Sheffield Wednesday, soon to be in the Premier League after getting an unbeaten season, winning every single game of the Championship and having 46 wins out of 46, you could see how much Tommy Elphick, how much influence he had on the Aston Villa line. He's the club captain now. He's been there for a game. He was organising things. Looked really solid. And they haven't signed another centre-back, and I feel like they do need that leader at the back. Although I'm not saying they haven't got leaders, but I feel like they're two huge losses, and that's why I feel like a lot of the influence out of their side, especially at the back, because Disan and Zuba are also defensive players. I feel like that's where they could be hurt. In the attack, they could be fine, but I feel like it's going to be a season where they're going to have to outscore teams unless they make changes at the back.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I also think that they need a goalkeeper, because Artur Burac is not exactly the best keeper in the world.
Yeah.
But I've been proven wrong before. Look at Aurelio Gomez last season. So,
Mr. You shall not pass if you get a penalty against me. Worth noting, though, that I feel like they've made good transfers. Although I thought Liverpool were mad to get rid of Jordan Ibe for as low a price as they did. I believe they've got a buyback clause on him, so if he starts doing really well, Liverpool can say, haha, by the way, we'll have him back, please. And also, I feel like Lewis Cook is a great signing. I think £10 million was the fee from Leeds. And I feel like he's a great young player, and definitely one for now, if not definitely one for the future, that you could get quite a bit of money off. I'm just going to point that out because he's English. Just saying. Just going to say. And also Brad Smith, not really too sure what he brings. He is a defender, but a wide back. You need another centre-back. And Joe has been lost. Bear with me. And we're back. Joe went somewhere but lost connection. But I don't know how much you heard of what I said, but it's just reinforcing the statement that they do need another player, a central defender, for Bournemouth if they are going to, quite clearly have a team to stay up this season.
Yep, no, I've pretty much got most of that, yeah.
Okay, cool. Right, moving on from Bournemouth then, we've got one of the three new boys, I heard that, Burnley, who have made a few transfers, maybe not as many as they should have, but we're going to discuss them first. They've got Jimmy Dunn on a free, who I have no idea who he is. He's not on FPL, so I'm assuming he's not anything to shout about. They've got Johan Berg Gudmundsson from Charlton, also Nick Pope from Charlton, and John Flanagan on loan for the season. For me, Burnley have a good squad, but I do feel like they need to maybe strengthen a few positions a little bit more.
Yeah, no, I'm certainly looking at that. I mean, 4 signings for a newly promoted club. They spent approximately, I'd say maybe about 3 million with the undisclosed fee for Gudmundsson, just added in there as a random guess. And, it's not looking great for them, to say the least, but they have got the man, the myth, the legend, the Sean Dyche as their manager. I certainly think he can keep them in the league, but it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough.
I just, from a previous episode, looked at my little notes. £2.5 million reported fee for Gudmundsson. It is worth noting, though, that I feel like Burnley, out of the 3 clubs that have come up, have got the most, for me, which is that a lot of people will disagree because of Middlesbrough, the most chance of staying up, because Burnley, since, or if you look at the brief history last few years, you've got them going up, going back down, then coming back up. You've got the same manager and generally a lot of the same players that have gone up, gone back down, then come back up. So I feel like the squad as a whole know the Premier League. The manager himself, Sean Dyche, the Ginger Mourinho, knows the league. And I feel like this season, I do feel like there's other players he maybe needs to add. Maybe a few Premier League experienced players. I mean, John Flanagan can count, but he's quite young and not much game time in the Premier League. But the players he's signed are good. I mean, if anything, Jimmy Dunn, he's not even a first-team player. Neither is Nick Pope. John Flanagan, maybe have a battle. First team. So the only first-team player I can see is Johan Berg Gudmundsson, who, to be fair, played a really good season for Charlton last season. But I do feel like he has a plan and he hasn't spent money on players for a reason. I just feel like it's the wrong reason, personally. And I feel like it could haunt them, but they're strong enough as they are just to scrape it.
Yeah, no, it's certainly that they will struggle, but they will finish about the same sort of position as Bournemouth did last season, I think. And one key thing to notice is that where they've lost players, for example, Danny Ings, they've replaced Danny Ings with another pretty similar striker, to be honest.
Yeah.
And they managed to do it before, and I reckon they'll do it again.
Will go down?
No, I think they'll stay up. As in,
okay.
they have stayed up before. I reckon they'll do it again.
Andre Gray last season not only did he score 25 goals, he also grabbed 10 assists. In pre-season, he scored 9 goals in 6 games. He is definitely one to watch, and no surprise when we get onto our to watch list for the future. In a few minutes in the future, I suppose, at the end of the podcast, he's definitely on my list for that. But they haven't really lost anyone though, so they've got the team that they came up with. He does know the league, and if anything, he's got a lot of Premier League players like Tom Heaton, like maybe Sam Vokes, Andre Gray in the squad that he's kept from last time. So maybe it'll go well for Burnley. I'd sure hope so, because I love Sean Dyche. Absolutely love him.
I hope it goes well for Burnley as well. It's another sort of small club that you want to do well.
Yeah.
A little bit like the old Blackpool, and look at them now.
Dwindling down in League 2. They're the new they're the new Portsmouth, aren't they?
Pretty much, yeah. Although Portsmouth had massive money troubles,
And
whereas
they've got owner troubles.
yeah,
But moving on, we've got the biggest loan, or the biggest outgoing loan list out of all the clubs in the Premier League, and I'll give you 3 guesses as to guess the club.
well, I mean I would, but I already know who it is because it's the same club as it is every year, and that is West Bromwich Albion.
They've left all their players go out on loan. Good Darren Fletcher, he's gone off to Kilmarnock. Gosh, just havoc. But
No, it's Chelsea.
joking aside, Chelsea, who have let about 80 players go out on loan because the way they run their club is an absolute shit shack and a joke.
Disgrace.
But all burping aside, 2 players they've signed: N'Golo Kante and Michy Batshuayi. And I'll let you talk first because I feel like you know one of those players a little well.
Yeah, so N'Golo Kante is well, Chelsea, I think that out of the big clubs, they are one of the teams that has done some of the better business, and they've done the right sort of business. They've identified that they need a striker. They've gone out there and they've nicked one from another team, not naming that team. They've gone out there and nicked a signing from someone else, and he's a good striker. He seems to be very sort of prolific. Has been a prolific forward in Football Manager for the past few years, to say the least. But, you know, Batshuayi, a good signing, and then N'Golo Kante potentially could be one of the signings of the season. Again, I mean, for the stuff that he did for Leicester last year will be sorely missed this season for Leicester, and Chelsea are going to reap the benefits of it.
Well, it's something that I've mentioned a few times, is that with N'Golo Kante, the job he did at Leicester allowed their 4-4-2 to feel like a 4-5-2, because he acts as 2 players in the midfield. It allows Drinkwater to maybe play slightly more attacking. It allows both the strikers to attack rather than one of them to drop back and maybe go into the midfield. And I feel like if Conte does move to 3 at the back and they play at least 3 in the centre, their central midfield is going to be incredibly hard to break down. But the one thing I'd worry about for Chelsea fans is that I feel like they are going to go 3 at the back, because they've let Ake go, who's a wide player, who's a wide back. They've let, for some reason, they've let, I believe, I'm completely blank. Baba Rahman, that's it. He's gone. And they've also got Aina coming in, but I feel like they could do with a full back, but that pretty much enforces the point they will be playing wide midfielders, because Cuadrado hasn't left the club yet, so I feel like he could be making his entrance to the club finally at a decent level.
Yeah, I mean, the formation I reckon Conte's going to play will be depending on how you look at it, will be a 5-3-2 or 3-5-2. In the way of the fullbacks, will be basically wing backs.
Yeah.
So then the right mid, of course, would be a right wing back, and then that still actually gives the opportunity for them to play Azpilicueta, because I highly doubt they're going to drop a player as good as him. And if they do, West Ham were looking for a left back, so
not anymore after you signed whatever his name is.
Yeah.
But good business, good crude business. Whether what that means for everyone's favourite striker Diego Costa with Batshuayi coming in, who knows? But 2 good signings. I'd be slightly worried at the back because Gary Cahill is Gary Cahill. John Terry is doesn't have any legs anymore. Kurt Zouma admittedly is a good defender. Maybe they move Ivanovic back into centre, because I can't see Ivanovic
I would imagine
wing back
Ivanovic.
or right mid.
Yeah, no, I would imagine that Ivanovic will be coming back into the middle this season. If they're going to be playing three at the back, the reason Ivanovic hasn't gone is because he can play centrally as well.
Yeah, I feel like that
And
is definitely the reason.
that also does also yeah, that does also give you depth across the back three because if oh my god, I can't swallowing now. Right, if you can't. If they need to change something up, go to four at the back, of course. You can move Ivanovic out into right back, drop Azpilicueta back into left back, and all of a sudden, once again, you've got four at the back.
Yeah, and it just makes it so when you're playing against Chelsea, they've got so many options, you don't know what's going to happen. But moving on from them, I'm not going to go through the outgoing loan signings because we'll be here all day. Next club is Crystal Palace, who probably have been one of the better, if not the best team as far as transfers go this season. We mentioned Chelsea were good. I think Crystal Palace done incredibly good. As much as it pains me to say, because I can't stand Crystal Palace as a club, they've done good business. Andros Townsend, Steve Mandanda and James Tompkins, they've identified places that were weak and put players in there. Wayne Hennessy, Alex McCarthy, Julian Speroni are not on the same level as Steve Mandanda. You've got James Tompkins, who was... I'm surprised West Ham let him go, to be honest, for £10 million at least. And that's a good signing because at the back, like I say, you need someone to partner Scott Dan, maybe even play fullback, and James Ward, or go the James Ward, I think that's his name, whatever Ward.
Joel Ward.
Joel Ward, that's the one. James Ward is the tennis player. And then Joel Ward can go left back, and then the winger, Andros Townsend, because as much as they've got about 80 wingers at the club, none of them seem to be holding down a good first team spot with good form, even Balassi at that sense. But
yeah, no,
one thing
both,
they need,
all of them inconsistent wingers.
Exactly, and I think Andros Townsend will constantly give them a threat, and that means that they've got about, no joking aside, 4 or 5 different wingers to bring on that can suit any sort of game. But what if they had a striker? Best business easily. No team will get close to them, but I feel like they've done really good business.
I do feel like they've done good business. I mean, Steve Mandanda, signing of the season so far for me. Free transfer. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, well, I say signing of the season. I've got another one, but one of the signings of the season by far on a free. He could have played for some of the top 4 clubs. He's had a magnificent few years at Marseille for the past few, and how they've let him go on a free is beyond me. But great signing for Palace. Really wished West Ham sort of went in for him. I'm not saying that Adrian's bad, but Mandanda is slightly better than Adrian, in my opinion. Andros Townsend, he kept Newcastle up last year, didn't he, from the way people were raving about him?
Well, he would have if he'd been signed at the start of the season.
Yeah, well, but Townsend, good signing. 13 million, must have been a release clause, because I'd imagine they would have wanted a bit more for him.
Yeah.
And Tompkins, I mean, I'm a big fan of James Tompkins. He's a West Ham boy. Sad to see him go, but the reason he's gone is the right reasons.
What were they?
Well, we sold him because we've got 2 other centre-backs that are much younger, and we want to sort of push on a bit.
Is that Oxford
and Burke?
Oh, Burke. I was going to say Nordvik.
Yeah. No, no.
I don't know. I don't know a lot. Disappointingly, though, they have let a few memes go. Shamak's gone. Adebayor's gone. Dwight Gale's left, which is I feel like Dwight Gale.
Oh, what? Pants. I didn't realise Shamak had gone.
Yeah, he's left on a free release from his contract.
Just seen that. Oh my god.
But to round off Crystal Palace, because I don't want to spend too much time on the lower teams, so I was part of the FPL Updates podcast, and someone asked the question, which I got the duty of answering. Who do you think will start for Crystal Palace, Wayne Hennessy or Steve Mandanda? And all I had to say is that Steve Mandanda for the last 2 years has been in the team of the season in League One and also the goalkeeper of the season in League One. And Wayne Hennessy a few years ago was on loan to Yeovil. So that sums up your question, and that pretty much gives you 100% proof that if Mandanda doesn't start, then Alan Pardew's absolutely fucking mental. But there we go.
This is Alan Pardew we're talking about.
I wouldn't be surprised now. I said it in my head. But moving on, hopefully... I just realised we've been talking for quite a long time. Everton, they've signed 2 players, basically. I'm not going to count Renshaw or Sambu because they're young youth players, but Stekelenburg for a goalkeeper position to replace Howard, I'm assuming, and Idrissa Gay for the defensive midfield option, just because they've signed the director of football that found Kante. Maybe they found the new Kante. But 2 signings, 2 good signings, I have to admit.
I don't agree, I'm afraid. I think Stekelenburg is a good goalkeeper to have if he's going to be a backup goalie. But if Everton are really looking at themselves and thinking that they want to be a top club, Stecklenburg is not the best goalie in the world. I mean, maybe that's just my opinion, but I do think that he's not an exact replacement for someone like Tim Howard, who's been a brilliant goalie. Idrissa Gueye, he's just been relegated with Aston Villa. It doesn't fulfil me with much confidence in the fact that he'll be the next Kante. But maybe he's got better players around him. He'll be a bit better. But I don't think that they've done very good business. I don't think they're going to struggle unless they sell Lukaku, because then they're fucked. But but Everton, you've let me down a little bit, I have to say.
It is worth pointing out. I feel like Idrissa Gueye was one of Aston Villa's standout players throughout the season. It was unfortunate that he was around of shit players, basically. Sorry for the swearing, but he was one of the standout players. I feel like, even though he played defensive midfield, I feel like he was either one of their most top scoring midfielders or their most top scoring midfielder, which says a lot for how their attacking players themselves and also other defensive midfielders did that season. But I feel like a lot of it is riding on the fact Everton are waiting to see if anything happens for that Stones deal at £50 million for John Stones, and also Lukaku, whether anything happens with that. But I don't feel like they need many more. Maybe another centre-back if Stones go. But apart from that, I feel like they don't really need to improve that much in the team. They've got all the players they need. They haven't let many people go. I mean, Howard went, but Hibbert went, Mima's gone, Leon Osborne went, Slight Mima's gone, and Stephen Pienaar left because he was shit.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying that, like, Idrissa Gueye is not good. I'm just saying that I don't think I've seen enough in him to say that he's a good signing yet. I could be wrong.
I understand that, yeah. I mean, I'm just going on what I feel. I'm generally not going on stats, but he was one of their standout players, but
yeah, but I mean,
who knows?
It's like saying, because of course Scott Parker a few years ago at West Ham, by far the best player in the entire team, but when you put him in the Spurs team, it wasn't exactly the same because he had a lot of better players around him.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
But, hey.
But we'll move on. I'm sorry, I was about to say we'll move on to Hull City, but they haven't fucking signed anyone, so we can't actually. If he signed Will Mannion from AFC Wimbledon by a tribunal.
Yeah, I've just seen compensation there. I'm guessing that means they've signed him on a free and they've had to pay out a little bit like the whole Liverpool Burnley thing with Ings.
But as far as we can discuss a few outgoings, there's not really much to discuss. Sonia Luca and Ryan Taylor were released because they weren't good enough for a Premier League level. I'm about to burp. And
Mo Diarmé sold.
But they had no choice in that. Release clause was activated and Newcastle was splashing big money on players to get them back up, and I feel like they were outwaged by Newcastle, so Diarmé chose the higher wage. So Hull City generally, that's it, done. There's no real discussion needed. Because there's nothing to discuss. There's nothing, and all their players are injured. But spoiler alert, and I think you've put it as well. I think both of us are going to have Hull in their relegation zone somewhere.
Oh, I can't reveal that yet.
But we'll move on from Hull. And the Premier League champions next, Leicester, who've signed Zila, they've signed Luis Hernandez, they've signed Raul Uchi Rubio, they've signed Mendy, they've signed Musa, and they've signed Kaputska, who was notably a good Polish player from the Euros. And I'll let you start on them, actually. I'll let you start on Leicester. What do you think about any of their signings, and how have they done in the transfer window? Obviously, they've lost a few players. The only one noticeable is N'Golo Kante.
And no, there's a surprising one as well. I didn't expect to see Joe Dodu go, to be honest.
Really?
No, I didn't expect him to go. I thought he was Leicester's future at one point.
Yeah.
Maybe I was wrong. But anyway, Mendy, bless you.
Thank you.
Nampalys Mendy, they seem to have a lot of hopes on him, thinking that he's their next Kante. Personally, I've never heard of him, and when I've never heard of a player, I don't tend to think they're that good because I tend to know everyone.
Did you hear of Kante when he signed, though?
I had heard of Kante, yes, because West Ham had almost signed Kante
Okay.
earlier in the season. But yeah, Mendy, I've never really heard of him. He could be a good player, he could not. I don't really want to pass judgment on him yet, and because I don't like Leicester, I could be very biased. Ron Robert Ziela, 2.6 million, absolute bargain. Absolute bargain. However, Schmeichel has just signed a new 5-year deal, so Ziela's basically been signed to sit on the bench.
Maybe Champions League games.
Maybe Champions League games. I did forget that they're in the Champions League. Luis Hernandez. Now, I'm actually forgotten who he is. Is he a centre-back?
Mm-hmm.
All right, well,
I don't know who he is.
Just like Raul Uchi Rubio. Don't know who he is. So I'm just going to go with the one I do know. Ahmed Musa. He seems to have been quite a good signing for them. He's a quite quick forward. But is he a world beater? I don't think so.
Yeah. Hernandez is a centre-back, by the way.
Yes, okay, he is a centre-back then. Hernandez isn't very good then. Because he's who I think he is. Ahmed Musa, yeah, you know, I think that he's a good player, but I don't think he's going to win Leicester the league. But I'll get back onto that at another time. And Kubutska had a good Euros, but can he do it on a rainy night in Stoke? We'll find out. But, you know, the thing is with signing players from major tournaments is it's very hard to sort of define whether or not they're going to be good. They could be good in a few years' time. You know, you've got to adjust to everything. I mean, he could have had a few good games, but a season is longer than 6 games, which is exactly why Ayew signing for West Ham for 20 million.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, he was good for 6 games. Let me just reiterate that.
The worrying thing for Swansea was it was one of the best players last season.
Yeah, I know.
But I found out Raul Uch Rubio is a 18-year-old, so that's one for the future.
Okay, yeah, right, that's fair enough. That's why I hadn't heard of him yet.
I've got nothing much to add, really. I feel like Musa is just going to be a replacement Jamie Vardy because he's quick and likes to play exactly the same way as Vardy does. So when Vardy gets a bit tired, in comes Musa. When Vardy's back to full fitness, back out goes Musa, and in comes Vardy. And that'll happen. And Kaputska, just because I just don't see Michael Brighton as a Champions League player.
Well, I mean, after seeing what Messi did to him, I'm surprised all Brighton isn't, looking for some League 2 clubs to start going and sign for, because that was absolutely savage.
I haven't really got much to add on any of them.
Does show the difference in quality, though, doesn't it, really?
Yeah, one thing is that the good business to get money out of Kramaric, who was their record signing, and they managed to still get money out of.
Yeah,
so.
I don't know how they managed that, because what did he do?
Nothing, exactly. But anyway, we move on to Liverpool. I think, better signings than Leicester. Joel Matip on a free.
That's a good
Karius, another good signing. Then got Mane, you got Klavan. You got Manninger, who's basically like an Austrian Mark Schwarzer, whatever kind of nationality he comes from, and Wijnaldum. And I feel like it's good signings. It also means that FPL-wise, no point guessing, because they've got about 6-7 players that can play in attacking midfield, 2 of them signing this window, but they've signed when they needed players, and I feel like now, although last season we saw Klopp rotating a lot, that was just because he knew the season was going to shit, just let it be. Next season's going to start playing a more structured team. They signed 2 centre-backs in Matip and Klavan, who again, I feel like good signings. They needed centre-backs, and now Sakho's been drug testing and sent home from the pre-season tour. Who knows if he has a future at the club. Maybe backup goalkeeper, because when Mignolet was doing shit, who do you have to look up on? No one. So that's the reason why I've signed another goalkeeper or 2. And then Mane and Wijnaldum. They were good form players last season, but very hot and cold, which is the only worrying thing I'd put in there.
Yeah, I mean, Mane has been proven to be a very good Premier League player over the past few years. Not really worth 36 million in my opinion. 26 is a much more realistic transfer price of him. Wijnaldum, I'm a big fan of Wijnaldum. I think he's a great signing for Liverpool. He can play as a sort of central midfielder as well as an attacking midfielder. Yeah. So, you can't really go wrong with a signing like that. Karius should be the Liverpool number 1 really now. Over Mignolet. Yeah. Good player, Karius. I rate him quite highly. He had a very good last year. Matip has been good for the past few years, so he's a decent signing at centre-back. Klavan, don't know an incredible amount about him, but I do understand he is a very good centre-back. And, of course, manager is just your Mark Schwarzer, isn't he?
basically. And that pretty much sums up the Neco's my thoughts. Good business, and for me, I think Liverpool look dangerous this season. If they can keep Sturridge fit as well, with Origi going in and scoring goals, if they can get Ings maybe back to full fitness, I think they look pretty good.
Apart from they sold Joe Allen.
They sold Joe Allen. I just realised now, looking down, they've sold Joe Allen. They've let Bogdan go on loan to Wigan. They've sold Jordan Ibe. They've sold Skirtle. So they've replaced the players, but
somehow they got $6 million out of Brad Smith.
Yeah, somehow, who is rated at £4 million on FPL, which is basically you're not going to play at all this season. I'm going to sneeze again at some point, so I'll let you go through Man City signings. Go.
The Man City signings are quite interesting because they've made one for the future, and Gabriel Jesus, that's an absolutely unreal signing. I really hope he does reach his potential, because I'd love to see him play in the Premier League. Marlos Moreno, I believe he's a Colombian forward, another one for the future. So they're not just, looking at right now, because of course Leroy Sané rated at 37 million, someone who I think is already better than Raheem Sterling, and they paid, not half the price, but pretty close to it for him. That's a great signing there. Let's pronounce this. Alexander Zinchenko. Don't know who he is.
He's a youth player.
I was going to say, I imagine he's a youth player, but I'm not too sure. This Aaron Moy, a bit of a weird signing, because I don't actually think he's that good, and he's like 24. So I don't really know what's going on there. But Nolito and Gundogan are two very good signings. It's got to be said. Nolito, a good winger, experienced winger. He can still do the business. A great playmaker, very similar to sort of Dimitri Payet to an extent. Might not be the quickest, but he's certainly very good with the ball at his feet. And Ilkay Gundogan, of course, a player that a lot of people have known for years at Dortmund. He's a great midfielder, and he'll do the job there. He'll do a job.
I feel like there are good signings. The ones for the future, it's the same as every other Man City season. For me, I think 9 out of 10 of them will sign on, get a few years' experience, make 1 or 2 appearances for the first team when they got a few injury problems right at the end of the season, and then get sold on to some weird club that no one's ever heard of somewhere in Europe. It's generally how it goes. Gabriel Jesus, just going to say, football manager, wonder kid, just putting that out there. And then with Nolito and Sane, it gives them so many options out wide. You consider them, you've got Sterling out there, you've got David Silva out there, you've got Kevin De Bruyne out there, you've got Jesus Navas out there. They've got so many different players now. Teams are not going to know what to do. I mean, they could have 3 of them on the bench, put 2 of them on. If they feel like, they don't like pace, add Sterling in. They need a bit of a playmaker, add Nolito in. There's so many options they can do now. It's worrying for defences.
Yeah, I mean, and the fact that they've still got Nasri, who I imagine they're going to sell, and Jesus.
He's a fat bastard.
Jesus Navas is another winger that I also think could go, potentially.
Yeah.
End up back in Spain somewhere to the end of his career, because I don't feel like he's done enough to sort of warrant a place in that Man City side. And you can't forget that they like to put David Silva on the wing and De Bruyne as well. So a lot of options at City, a lot of options.
Yeah, a lot of options indeed. And we'll move on from City. So we've pretty much gone through on them. I just realised we were talking about Adam Moy. He's just realised he's gone out on loan to Huddersfield. So no, he's not very good.
I just had a look down there. Yeah.
But moving on from there, Manchester United shouldn't take long. 3 signings: Eric Bailly, Zlatan Ibrahimovic, and Henrik Mkhitaryan. For me, 3 good signings. I felt I needed 1 centre back, and that was it. Another striker, yeah, most probably they needed that, and a winger. I don't think it was necessary, but yeah, I mean, they've also got one other player who hasn't been confirmed yet, but he's pretty much been confirmed, but we'll go on to him at the end when we've done everything else. But 3 pretty solid signings, even though they've probably spent hundreds of millions of pounds on their wages each month, year, who knows.
Yeah. Well, Zlatan, of course, everyone knows who he is. I don't really think we need to say much on him. Of course, he's a quality signing for Man United, however, he is getting old. So, has he got the pace to handle the Premier League? It's
Who knows?
Yet to be seen.
It's worth noting, though, he scored an overhead kick, or a kind of overhead kick, for his debut goal against Galatasaray, and also leapt well to score a header against Leicester. So, No doubt he can still score goals, but it's whether he can do the competitive Premier League pace is the thing that I think everyone's worried about.
You can't forget the likes of Falcao, you know, came from Liga 1 as a prestigious goal scorer, and look at him.
Exactly.
And then also another one that has literally just... someone like Robin Van Persie, you know, as he got older, lost his legs, still scored goals, but, you know, he's not getting on the end of things. But, you know, Zlatan, good signing. Eric Bailey, a bit of an interesting one, because I think he had a good sort of season last year, and he's now worth 30 million. But, you know, we'll just wait and see what he's like. I would imagine it's mainly to stop Daley Blind playing at centre-back, even though I believe he did yesterday. Am I right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. And then, of course, Henrik Mkhitaryan, or Mkhitaryan. I'm a big fan of Mkhitaryan. Loved him on Football Manager when he played for Shakhtar, because you could get him for 12 million. But, you know, since he'd been at Dortmund, he's been a revelation. Last season, had a magnificent year, and he's deserved a big move. But, you know, hopefully he'll do all right.
I feel like you're looking at the facts. I feel like even if Ibra hasn't got the pace, he's going to be a force to be reckoned with in the air. So, like, you know, he's basically, if he hasn't got the pace, it's like having a slightly older version of Andy Carroll to aim for. When you've got Rooney coming from deep, that player that we will not mention because we'll mention him later. You've got Mkhitaryan from one side, you've got Lingard, you've got Mata, who, rather funny about Mata, I don't know if you saw it, in the Community Shield, was subbed on in the 63rd minute and then subbed off before the end because he wanted someone higher on the pitch, Jose Mourinho. Someone taller.
I didn't actually see that. No, I didn't see that Mata had
got subbed back
off
off in injury time because he was looking to counteract the overhead ball or the long balls forward. But yeah, 3 solid signings. Manchester United done. I thought we were doing well for time. I've just looked at the Middlesbrough signings. Victor Fisher, Bernardo Espinosa, Martin de Roon, Jordan McGee, Victor Valdez, Antonio Barragan, Alvaro Negredo, Gaston Ramirez and Brad Guzan. I'll let you go because I've got an interesting debate to say on them, but you go.
Okay, so Brad Guzan didn't actually realise he'd joined Middlesbrough. That's actually quite a good signing. I've rated Brad Guzan over the years. Victor Valdez, another interesting one. He didn't have a very good loan spell at Standard Liège, so don't think he's going to be the starting goalkeeper. Negredo had a good year, or a year and a half at Man City. A bit old now, joined Middlesbrough. Well, I mean, he's joined Middlesbrough, that shows how old he is. You know, those 3 signings there, I mean, Guzan's good, but Valdez and Negredo, I think they're just squad players. Victor Fisher, of course, many of you know him as another Football Manager sort of wonder kid over the years, has slightly decreased in potential over the past few years. Can he hack it in the Premier League? It's soon to find out. And de Roon, no idea who he is. So that's my definition of the Middlesbrough signings, and part of the reason why I don't think they're going to do too well.
I think people were just hyped up about... I think people looked at the names and just thought that'll be good. It's worth noting also that Gaston Ramirez was at the club on loan, and they've just signed him permanently from Southampton. But the thing I want to say is that not many people... I've seen it, but not many people are thinking they're going to go down, but a lot of pundits I've seen from different newspapers and sites do think that they're going to go down. I'm one of the ones that think they will really struggle this season, just because they're doing what QPR did both times they came up to the Premier League. Signed, all these players, extravagant names, and even the second time when QPR signed Premier League players, they didn't go well because the squad can't, gel together. For me, I think they've signed too many players that not even experienced in the Premier League. I mean, granted, Gaston Ramirez played in there for a bit. Brad Guzan, I think, was been okay over the past few years, but last season he was shocking for Aston Villa. He was constantly making mistakes, and he was out of the team for a while because he made so many mistakes. But I feel like they're really going to struggle because the players they've signed don't know the Premier League, and they're not going to know each other. And I just feel like, as far as squad unity goes, it's just not a good mix. It's not a good mix.
No, I would agree with that. I just think we just need to see how it unfolds. I think it'll be a mistake not to play Jordan Rhodes as the main man for them.
Yeah.
because he is, of course, a natural goal scorer. So
Yeah.
we'll just have to wait and see what they do.
Also, I think the other reason they're going to go down is because they've let Jonathan Woodgate go on a free. Serves you right if you go down. Serves you right. But moving on to Southampton, not many signings, but a few really interesting ones. Nathan Redmond, Pierre-Emile Hojberg, Alex McCarthy, and Jeremy Pide. First of all, Jeremy Pide, I was notified by someone that commented on one of my videos, so thank you to that person, that Jeremy Pide has played the new manager Claude Puel, we call him Claude, has played or had Jeremy Pide at a lot of his previous clubs, so and he's right back, so that could mean Cedric's out of position, but it also means that Jeremy Pide is well thought of when it comes to the manager. Nathan Redmond is a fantastic signing. I feel like he did wonders for Norwich, and he was playing with people in Norwich, so that
did wonders in a struggling side.
Exactly, that's what I was trying to get through. Pierre-Emile Hojberg, I'm not too sure about. Haven't seen much of him, haven't heard much of him, but I've heard of the name. I know he's quite quite a good signing on Football Manager if you can get your hands on him. And for me, he's a more defensive midfielding option. And Alex McCarthy is a good backup to Fraser Forster. There we go.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything you said there, really. But Nathan Redmond, of course, is a great signing. A great replacement for Sadio Mane. Very sort of, not a similar player. They are, of course, Mane, I'd say, is more of an inside forward, whereas Redmond is more of a pacey winger.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, a great replacement for Mane.
And it's a lot of, or quite a few people, more than I expected, have raised the point of Southampton without Ronald Koeman. They're going to worry, they're going to look bad. Pella and Mane have left, as well as Wanyama. They're not going to do well. We've said that for the last 3 or 4 seasons combined, and every signing that Southampton make generally is a fantastic signing. They'll do well at the club. Every managerial decision they make, they get it spot on. When they came up to the Premier League, Nigel Adkins came in and then he was sacked. Pochettino replaced him, and people were like, what are you doing? You've just sent the club back down. But Pochettino was a great option and a great signing. Then Pochettino left. Ronald Koeman, I believe, was the next one to come in. Everyone thought, they've lost players, they've got a new manager, going to struggle. Ronald Koeman's done really well with them. I just feel like it's going to be another good season for Southampton. Just putting that out there, the boards and the transfers committee, whatever they have to deal with transfers in the club, get it spot on almost every single time, and credit has to go to them. And that's why I feel like having players like Redmond and Pide in your FPL team, definitely worth it.
Redmond, I definitely agree with.
Redmond at 6 million as well is a steal.
Yeah,
absolute steal.
And you'll hear from me later on about him as well.
But moving on to Stoke, not much to talk about. They've signed a youth player from Wimbledon. I'm assuming he's a youth player. Then they've signed Ramadan Sobhi and Joe Allen. Not much to talk about, but I'll let you start on this one.
Joe Allen had a very good Euros. Decent end to last season with Liverpool. Don't really know what to say about him apart from that. He's an alright signing. And then I've never heard of Ramadan Sobhi. I'd imagine he's a winger.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll just have to wait and see with him. Stoke have not done the best business, to say the least. But, they have got a decent squad still. I don't imagine they'll struggle.
They won't struggle. They won't pull up any trees. Maybe low top half or top bottom half. But Sobhi, from what I've been told in my comments and also the videos that I've watched or I was linked, he looks quite skillful, quite a good winger. And Joe Allen is a midfielder I don't have. I either have a very attacking midfielder or a very defensive midfielder. He's the only player that sort of is in the middle, so he can sit back and push forward. Very good signing for them, and they haven't let anyone go. Most importantly, they've let Steve Sidwell and Peter Odemwingie go. Sidwell wasn't even at the club last season. Odemwingie is Odemwingie. He apparently drove up because he heard rumours that he was going to sign for the Brazil national team, so he drove up to Brazil. Just didn't happen, did it? Didn't happen, did it? So he's back down to QPR again. And he found it wasn't even at QPR, so he's back down to, actually, no club, back down to home because he got released.
Went back to West Brom.
To West Brom. But moving on, another club, it won't take long. Sunderland have signed one player, Diliboji. Sam Allardyce has gone. Not really much to say except he didn't really get a chance at Chelsea. Surprise, surprise. But not really too sure on the transfer, really. Not really too sure on Sunderland at the moment.
Yeah, well, I mean, they've sold experience. I say sold experience. They've sold, released even, Wes Brown. They have sold Danny Graham, sold Stephen Fletcher, sold Chiaccarini.
Stephen Fletcher was a free, I have you know.
It says, right, shut up. And they've sold the Genie as well. they've got rid of a lot of players and Adam Matthews. I'll get onto them later into the video when I do my predictions, but it's not looking good.
The biggest loss for me and for them is Gacciarini, because they lost him for £2 million,
yeah.
and considering the Euros he had, I don't. There must be some sort of clause. I don't understand how. I do not understand how. Danny Graham as well. What a centre-back he was. What a centre-back. But we'll move on from them. Then we go on to Swansea. Swansea have signed Leroy Fer, Van der Hoon, Tyler Reid, George Byers, Mark Brigetti and Fernando Llorente, ignoring Reid, Byers and Brigetti because they're all backup or youth players. Van der Hoon maybe get playing time. Leroy Fer will probably get playing time, and Fernando Llorente will definitely get playing time. I don't have much to add except they're okay signings, so I don't know if you want to add anything.
No, they're just the average sort of Premier League signings, aren't they, really?
Yeah, they'll get the job done. To be honest, I'm just going to leave it there because we're really, cutting our time short. Tottenham have signed 2 players, 2 real good players, Victor Wanyama and Vincent Janssen, because Victor Wanyama can now take the place of either Dembele or Dyer if there's energy requirements or they're getting tired, because he's a very much defensive minded player and a good signing. I really do rate Wanyama. And Vincent Janssen because Harry Kane finally has some competition, because 1, when he started playing well, Adebayor doesn't count and Soldado doesn't count. 2, Clinton and G doesn't count either, because I don't even think he exists anymore. And now Vincent Janssen has signed. He might not be the best player, but definitely gives Kane something to think about now for this season.
Yeah. Only thing I've got to add is, signing Wanyama means you're getting at least 4 red cards in this season.
That'll be true. Nothing much to add on that, have you?
Yeah, no, they've released the pace, Federico Fazio, on loan to Roma.
I've just seen that. Alex Pritchard as well. Good youth player.
Yeah, 9 million to get out of him. That's good bit of business, really, because, I don't know if he'll actually ever amount to anything.
No, I don't think so either. Nothing good, at least. Nothing Tottenham first team-wise, so good signing. Then we got to Watford. Jerome Sinclair's been signed. Christian Cabaselli. Isaac Success. Means that Watford are going to win the league because they signed someone called Success. Then they've got Zuniga and Jadjedje all signed. I don't know much about most of the players. I know that the last 2 names are a fullback. So I know Success is a winger, Cabalesi is a centre-back, and Jerome Sinclair is a striker/winger. But it's worrying. It's really worrying if you're a Watford fan, personally. Looking
at the players they've sold, I would agree. Angela, decent centre-back, and a lot of players they've sold as well. Ekstrand, Baguis, Poodle and Abdi.
Oh, quality signings. Don't let them go.
Abdi's a great signing for Sheffield Wednesday. And Gerardo as well. When I watched Watford versus West Ham last season at Upton Park, Gerardo was by far one of their best players on the pitch, so I don't know why they've let him go. But Isaac's Success, he seems to have some sort of future apparently. Cabaselli, never really heard of him. I believe he's a centre mid.
Cabaselli is a centre back.
Centre back, same thing really, isn't it? Jerome Sinclair, a bit of a weird one. He's not really first team, is he?
No.
Zuniga, of course, a great player to have if Neymar was in the Prem. He's not in the Prem. Okay, so maybe Zuniga's not a good signing. And Dejade, yeah, he's just a fullback, isn't he? So, yeah, I haven't got a lot to say on Watford. I think they're going to struggle.
I do think they're going to struggle as well. I feel like they need more attacking players, but they haven't signed them. But we move on. West Brom have signed...
And they sold Leon as well, who had a brilliant year at Porto.
Yeah, I feel like there was some clause or a buying fee in his loan, so I feel like they didn't really have much choice about that. I think it was all Porto doing that. But West Brom, going to go on to them. Someone player, Matt Phillips, and to be honest, all I've got to say about that is it's a really good signing.
Yeah, Matt Phillips is a good signing, good winger. Good signing for QPR when they got him as well, but he's gone to West Brom. He's a good player.
And I feel like it's something different now because it gives the West Brom a flair player, which I was surprised even, came in the same sentence as West Brom under management of Tony Pulis.
Whoa. They had a flair player last year, but they've released him.
Who's Sessegnon?
No, Victor Anichebe.
Flip-flap. Victor Anichebe is a meme. But good signing. They do need a few more players maybe. maybe if Berahino goes, they'll need another striker, because I would have let Anichebe go and Berahino go, but who knows?
You can have Sacco for 16 million again if you want.
But talking about West Ham, last team to go through, and you're a West Ham fan, so go Ham.
Yes, right. So Manuel Lanzini has signed from his loan last season, 9.4 million. A very good bit of business. Shame he's injured. Tony Martinez, is he one for the future? Only paying about 2.5 million. Another okay signing. I mean, he's looked quite good in a few of the development squad games. Scored a pretty nice free kick the other day as well. Havard Nordveit, watched him play in the first Europa League game. He's all right. Definitely probably better as a CDM rather than a centre back. But you know, he's not. I say he's not first team, but you know, he's not. He's probably not first team. Sofiane Feghouli, probably. Here comes the hate. Probably the signing of the transfer window so far on a free transfer. He's been great on the wings during pre-season. Yes, pre-season doesn't matter, but he's shown that he's got the ability. He's hopefully going to take a little bit of pressure off of Payet next season. Gokantor, decent loan deal. Hopefully he'll be good, but of course he is injured as well. And then Fletcher and Queen are both on free transfers from Chelsea and Manchester United. They've looked good, but they're players for the future. That's about it really.
Masaku?
Huh? Oh yeah, shit! It's not updated yet. Masaku signed as a backup player for Aaron Cresswell, who is of course out for 4 months. Yeah. I mean, when it comes to West Ham, though, you talk about transfers, it's more like the ones that got away, rather than the ones we've signed, isn't it? You know?
At least you've signed the players. Think about your North London rival. Is it North London? I don't know. London rivals Arsenal, who is every signing is the one that got away.
Yeah, well, still, you know, but yeah, I would say we've done reasonable business. We've identified, of course, that we needed another centre mid he can also play at centre back, which is good. We've signed 2 wingers to add to our fucking millions of wingers we've already got. We signed a full back because we had to in left back.
Well, because you released Joey O'Brien.
Yeah, well, I can't believe we did that. We seem to be intent in playing bloody Antonio in right back still, which frustrates me. But, you know, I still think we need to sign a right back, and we definitely need a striker.
Quick question.
Wait. Sorry, can I rewind that? We don't definitely need a striker, but if Andy Carroll gets injured, we do.
Yeah, I'd say that. Quick question though. Who's the most expensive defender on FPL?
Bellerin.
No, Antonio at 7 million.
Oh, okay.
But I just realised we've been talking for about an hour, so I'm going to have to do 2 parts. So one up Wednesday, one up Thursday. If you got to the end, then wow, you're the only person who's done that. Transfer special,
the first one.
Transfer
Second
special,
one,
the first one.
BPL, week 1, and predictions.
What would I do without you? The answer would be talk to myself for an hour and get a really dry throat. That is all from us. You'll see us on part 2 tomorrow if you got this far.
Wait. You forgot the actual, Pogba thing, the other transfers.
I was going to go into that next episode because it's sort of a good thing to start on because he hasn't actually signed yet. So technically, I don't
know what you're doing. Just finish.
I finished. But anyway, we'll get on to Pogba next episode. We've basically done about an hour. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.
See you.